Whether you are in the Stanley Cup Playoffs or whether you are out, the Chicago Blackhawks may be coming all the same. In today's video, I wanted to respond to some commentary made by Frank Seravalli on Victory Plus and their YouTube channel. Because on last week's edition of Frankly Hockey from April 14th, 2026, we had ourselves a conversation about Chicago and which players they could potentially, or should potentially, go out there and target. As we had mentioned, some of these guys are not playing in the postseason, others are in the smack dab middle of it. So with that said, let's focus on Jason Robertson out of the Dallas Stars, as well as Matthew Knies from the Toronto Maple Leafs. Here's the scoop as summarized by Lyle Richardson on Spectre's Hockey from April 20th, so yesterday. Could the Blackhawks pursue Matthew Knies or Jason Robertson? NHL insider Frank Seravalli was asked if the Chicago Blackhawks would make a bold move this offseason by attempting to trade for more than one superstar. For example, would they go after Toronto Maple Leafs Matthew Knies and Dallas Jason Robertson, or only one of them? Seravalli thinks going after Knies or Robertson would be a great start for the Blackhawks. He reminded us that he reported several weeks ago that they were among the teams interested in Knies before last month's trade deadline. He doesn't think the Maple Leafs were actually planning to move Knies, but were looking for one of those deals where you can accomplish a rebuild in one single trade, which is really hard to do. I would assume that some sort of a Matthew Knies trade for a rebuild-solving package would involve a number of young assets and a number of picks and a whole bunch of other stuff too. Not a hockey trade, probably not, but you're probably bolstering up the future there. You would be taking the long-term potential of Matthew Knies at 23 years old, making the amount of money that he's got right now, and scoring the amount of points that he's got right now, and leveraging that to get some more younger pieces. That's what I assume, at least. The Blackhawks' interest in Matthew Knies indicates what type of player they could be looking for this summer. John Busigros believes the Blackhawks can afford to be bullish and try to acquire a Matthew Knies or a Jason Robertson. But that wasn't the question at the beginning, wasn't it? It was multiple. Both of these guys potentially being Blackhawks targets, one after the other. For what it's worth, Spectre's note goes out there and says this: Maple Leafs ownership made it clear that they intend to retool instead of rebuild, which suggests they'll be hanging on to Knies unless someone makes them a mind-blowing offer. Meanwhile, Stars GM Jim Nill downplayed the trade rumors that dogged Robertson last summer, and maintains his intention to re-sign Robertson this summer. He's an RFA with arbitration rights, who is also a year away from UFA eligibility. Of the two, Robertson seems the more likely to be available if he seeks more money than the Stars are willing to pay. He lacks no trade protection, but the Blackhawks might insist on attempting a sign-and-trade deal before committing assets to acquire him. Now, I think from a player-to-player evaluation perspective, you can say that Jason Robertson obviously is a more valuable player, a higher ceiling player compared to Matthew Knies. Robertson this season, he had scored 96 points, still not a career high. He's 13 points away from that, and he had accomplished that in a season where he was only 23 years old. So Jason Robertson, he is going to be making a whole bunch of money next season. Realistically, if Dallas wants to give him 12, I think they probably should. You think about the Mikko Rantanen contract that they had handed out to him earlier, and you think about the fact that Jason Robertson is technically younger, in a similar point production range. I think it's very fair to give Robertson a little bit more dough at this time when you consider how much the cap has gone up. But if the Stars are a little bit cheap, if they're not willing to commit that money to Jason Robertson, even though at the time of recording this audio, they have about, they They got negative cap space. Never mind. Actually, they got a bunch of dudes who are on expiring deals, so maybe they'll have enough for this upcoming summer. I mean, Michael Bunting's 4.5 is off the books. But with that said, Jason Robertson, I feel like whatever package you could send over that Chicago would be okay with, that would probably set the Stars back a little bit. I don't think Chicago is getting away with sending a roster-ready forward that can fill in the Jason Robertson minutes sustainably over to Dallas. It would have to be an all-futures kind of move. Unless Chicago was also interested in maybe re-signing and sending away another player like a Tyler Bertuzzi or somebody. What's the contract status on him? Let's go ahead and check that out over here. So Tyler Bertuzzi actually has 2 more years at $5.5 million. He would be an upgrade for Chicago, for sure, if you go from Bertuzzi to Jason Robertson, but is he the kind of guy that Dallas would be interested in getting back? Maybe a Teravainen instead. Maybe they want some speed with Ilya Mikheyev. You could say the exact same thing for Matthew Knies. Could Mikheyev thrive once more in a Toronto Maple Leafs sweater? If the Chicago Blackhawks were to go balls to the wall and they say, hey, screw our prospects, screw our draft picks, we've got Connor Bedard right now, who is still on his ELC. At the time of recording this audio, he is going to sign an extension, though. We know that for sure. We got Connor Bedard entering the first year of his next contract. Let's go in. Let's shell out all the extra young pieces that we don't necessarily see on our roster this year and try to go for a guy like Matthew Knies or a Jason Robertson. Actually surround Connor Bedard with the proper winger support to bring him to the heights that a Macklin Celebrini or a Leo Carlsson had been able to achieve this season. Connor Bedard had 75 points in 69 games played. That's hardly bad. It's fine. In fact, it's really good, but you look at the gap in talent with Chicago. 75 points was number 1 on this team. That same Tyler Bertuzzi had 58 points and 32 goals. And then you got Nazer at 41, Mikheyev at 36, and a bunch of other dudes at 32. There's no depth when it comes to Chicago Blackhawks offense. So getting some top-tier guys just to get more up front is super important for what the Blackhawks have in store here. Jason Robertson or Matthew Knies, I would assume that they would have the cap space to be able to make it work if they send away one of these Burakovsky, Bertuzzi, Teravainen types. I mean, Chicago right now has $13 million in cap space, so if they wanted to just pluck over a Jason Robertson, they wouldn't even need to free up the money. They could just send him that contract right away, fax it to him, and then you could do a perfect sign-and-trade scenario. But Matthew Knies also being in the mix too, his $7 million AAV is going to have to be compensated somehow. If you wanted to send Toronto a player or two that could still keep them competitive, then, I don't know, maybe you're thinking about an Ilya Mikheyev or somebody to replace those minutes and also provide some speed. Sam Lafferty could be a Leaf. That sounds like a pretty great idea, doesn't it? Obviously, I am poking fun at the situation in Toronto, but when you consider some of the other contracts that are coming off the books for Chicago, I mean, Shea Weber and his $7.8 million a year is going to be gone. I think the Blackhawks are going to be fine when it comes to paying whomever it is they acquire. But all's this to say, Frank Seravalli went out there and spoke about it on Victory Plus. He said it was a pretty good idea. Knies, Robertson, both? Could these guys be Chicago Blackhawks? Let me know in the comments all your opinions. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.